Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. It is time for your Emerald Finals for Season 7. But before we get into the gameplay, we are going to have a little chat here at Overcast. This is your pre-show. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. It is time to get into a little bit of discussion. But of course, I cannot do this by myself. So I have brought in a very talented desk that some of you may recognize. We are back at it again with... It's me, Liam and Stan. We're going to get that right up. Boys, how we feeling?
Oh, we're vibing, ready for the end of the season. Had a lot of players. I've done a lot of coaching in the past couple seasons, so I've gotten to know some of the players in Emerald, and I don't know, people have improved a lot. So it will be nice to watch the finals.
I'm in pain. I'm ready for this season to end.
Liam is the resident coach. Stan is the resident absolute just done. Needs to retire. He's gone. Get him out. But we've got one more game. It is going to be, of course, New York Insomnia and Vancouver Wild. New York has the number 1 seed going into this. Vancouver, I believe, had the number 3 seed. So we are going to have to talk about a couple things. And one of the first things I want to talk about, specifically to you, Stan, because you were a GM in Emerald this season, like most seasons, you've ran into both these teams. And so you're kind of familiar with their play styles, their players. I would love to get your initial thoughts on taking a look at these two rosters. Where do you see strengths? Where do you see weaknesses?
So I'm just gonna be honest. The genuine biggest threat in Emerald is gonna be New York. Astro was a great sign-on for New York. Thank you, Doge, for allowing that one to go through.
I knew it was coming.
He should have gone to Maui. But Doge was a nice guy. Let him go play with his friends on New York. So here we are. They're in the finals. Maui's not in the finals. Neither is Pitt. But New York has a strong core to everybody on that team pulls their weight. Vancouver is one of the teams that Pitt did actually beat this season. When we played New York, we lost. With Vancouver, though, they were a very formidable opponent for us. I don't remember what the score was per se, but I know it was a very close match on every single map that we played. Andrew's a very solid tank. All of the supports pull their weight, and then Cool and Light are just actually insane on DPS. So I think both teams do have a chance to win it all. So I think it will be an interesting match between the two of them.
Nice. And now, Liam, you said that you've been coaching some of these teams. I believe you had a little bit of time coaching New York and kind of helping them with some VODs. What were some things that stuck out to you, reviewing their gameplay, talking to the players, and just overall seeing their communication and their thought process throughout a lot of those fights?
Well, yeah, this is more talking about New York because I haven't interacted with Vancouver too much this season at all. But I know that New York, their strengths lie in the individual players, each being all decent at the game, having a decent base understanding. But their weaknesses lie in their inability to group up and play together. But I mean, that might not be the case because that's one of the things we went over and they should be practicing. So they might lock in, but if you can exploit them playing super split, then you can really capitalize on it.
When you were working with them in terms of, trying to group up, trying to be a cohesive unit and maybe not just a scattered clump of players, taking these fights, who would you say was one of the standout players in your opinion?
A standout being split or standout like being good at the game?
Standout being, the player who was caught out the most. Like, if Vancouver's looking for an exploit, if Vancouver's looking for a man to mark or a woman to mark or they them to mark, who are they going for?
Well, my answer is that Pyre is very often split because he's a very aggressive tank. That doesn't mean that their team should be going for him, but that means that if he's pushing up too far, that it opens up a lot of flank angles for your team. And if you collapse on the back line, it should be pretty open. So always hunt the supports down because those are higher priorities. And if your team can just bait the Rhine just a little bit further out, it's really gives a lot of space for the rest of your team to get value.
Nice. And now, same or similar, I guess, question to Stan. If you're looking at Vancouver, who do you think their kind of weakest link is? Now, I do believe the last time Pitt played against Vancouver, that roster looked a little bit different. I believe they had Salty Jinx in for Mensa instead on that lineup. So now with this revamped roster, do you see any inherent weakness or weak player, or do you think this team is better overall as a unit than New York?
That's the thing. It's like I don't put either team above one or the other. Like I said earlier, like I think both have a good chance at winning it. I would say probably the area where Vancouver struggles the most is with their support line. Just knowing how to play around Andrew, because he is a very smart and he has methods to his ideas of like how he's going to play the game. So as long as they're around him and they're playing smart and they're not wasting their cooldowns, I think they'll be okay. But I do know that New York has very aggressive, as Liam said, an aggressive tank and does have an aggressive DPS player. So that is something that they can capitalize on, is just making sure that they can capitalize on the fact that Vancouver supports are caught out in the middle of nowhere with no cooldowns, because sometimes I have noticed that they do happen to waste them.
Gotcha. Now, one of the things I really want to bring up is actually I think that the teams are very comparable in a lot of senses. I think if you look at the DPS lineup, I would probably give it to New York. I think Parasite has shown himself across so many seasons to just be an absolute dominant force. And I think this pickup of Astro has been really spectacular. But you cannot count out Cool and Light just finding these random headshots, finding these calculated picks, and a lot of these fights that give Vancouver that kind of momentum forward. I think the support lines are very similar. You have, the Demon Lord Biscuit, who just summons black magic and wins series and championships every single season-ish. And I think that Vancouver's backline has been very solid. The big thing I want to talk about is tank matchups. And I want to say this with respect to both players. They play 2 tanks each. That's it. Let's be real here. Andrew plays Diva and Ram.
It's true.
And Bonaparte plays Ryan and Sigma. So, we have hero bans this season, and, next actual Overwatch season, they're implementing them into the game, so we don't have to do our little fun system for that. But if you're looking at these tank matchups, and now that these bans are coming in and you can really target people, who do you think wins out more? Who do you think has a more either flexible pool or has a good enough playstyle with their 1-2 tricks to back it up?
Well, I mean, what I'll say for this one is Ram plays pretty well into Reinhardt, and that goes relatively equivalently for Sigma. If you're able to get close enough into either of them and then use your form, if you haven't used it yet, then you're able to get a lot of value off and force them to just back up. So the Ram could be a very strong pick, also to just not die by just holding block for a while. And I do know that Andrew has some experience in Ruby as well, playing with other people. So I give the edge to Andrew there, but I mean, sometimes Pyre's aggressive tank playstyle sometimes a lot of the time, will pay off for him. So.
Gotcha. Stan, similar thoughts? Different thoughts? What are you thinking?
No, it's pretty similar. I would agree. Like, Pyre gets away with a lot. You've seen it throughout the entire season. He makes some crazy plays. Pays for it sometimes, but overall, like, his team made it to the finals, so clearly he's doing something right. And then, Andrew, I would favor the Diva and the Ramatra, because like just those 2 tanks are just pretty solid. Solid Diva dive, and then you got Ramatra, like Liam said, just plays well into the 2 tanks that New York plays.
Gotcha. So, one of the things that we also have implemented, or at least updated a little bit, is going to be a different map pool this season. And I actually have a couple of stats here showing up on the screen. I've shared this with both of you guys in our VC chat. But as you can see, if we look across the Emerald scores, or at least the Emerald map picks, I see so many Lijiang Towers, so many Kings Row. Escort's been a little, swapped between Rialto, Jibby. Esperanza clearly being the favorite of the push. There's been no love to New Junk City in Emerald. If you are these teams, I think the obvious map picks are going to be this, Kings Row, Lijiang. New York will get the first choice between either map pick or hero band because they are the higher seed. So control is kind of up to them on where they go. Do you see potentially just the standard set Lijiang, Kings Row, Jibby, Rialto, Esperanza, Saravasa? Or do you see one of these teams potentially pulling out a random Numbani with 1 pick rate, or Havana with 0, or again, the elusive New Junk City? Do either of you guys see, these teams potentially prepping for a map to where they can pull it out of the blue and completely blindside the other team?
So, when I did my VOD with New York, the 2 maps we went over were Saravasa and Kings Row, and I think a
Go
team
figure.
a team that's played those maps and has VODed those maps will want to default to maps they feel like they have more experience on, and VOD experience can actually be very valuable because it's just pointing out rotations. Because I can't go through every map when I do a VOD review. So I suspect New York will default towards those standard Kings Row and Saravasa, but I personally prefer New Junk City. So I think that would be a strong pick from Vancouver if they lose first map.
I wonder, and I want to ask you, Stan, because again, you've seen Andrew in Ruby and Emerald now. Do you potentially see maybe Numbani is the first one that comes to my mind. It was picked one time in Emerald, but I feel like Numbani for Vancouver's playstyle, where you can just put Cool on the high ground, you can put Light paired up with Andrew on the Diva, and just really control both sets of high ground. Where New York, if we go back to this tank conversation, Pyre doesn't play a monkey, a ball, a diva, one of those characters that can really get up and control that space without just walking down. Do you see Vancouver maybe pulling out one of these odd map picks that could favor their style a little bit more?
I mean, yeah, sure. I think the only thing we can confirm is that Andrew will try his hardest to not play on King's Row, because we all know that man hates King's Row
And
for whatever
Ilios.
reason. Yeah, and Elios. But yeah, I think going a map like Nubani would really play into their hand a lot more than New York, just because he does have that diva in his pocket, and in Emerald his diva is notorious for being annoying and frustrating for backline players. So, and like you said earlier, Pyre usually tends to stick to the 2 field characters of like Ryan and Sigma. So
I think it can get interesting with these map picks, but something that we got to pick right now is going to be our predictions. And I want to start with you, Stan. What are you thinking? Who do you think is going to take it? Who do you think is going to be crowned at the end of this game?
as much as I would like to see Vancouver win, a little biased here, I'm gonna see New York winning. I'm gonna put it at a 4-2 score for New York in favor.
All right. All right. Liam, are you following in suit or are you going something a little different?
No, I mean, as I said, I've gone through some maps with New York and I've seen their strengths. I think the Andrew, while he does have a decent matchup into Pyre, um, needs a good backline to support him. Otherwise, he won't get the value he needs to. So I see New York winning this. My prediction's at 4-1.
Now, I am going to be the one to change it up. I think that Vancouver has put it together. I've seen the growth of the team. They started off, I believe, 1-3, maybe 2-2, something like that. But they've had a pretty good resurgence towards the end. I think that they're really coming to their own, and I think that this will be close. But I do have Vancouver taking it in a 4-3. So hopefully we at least get a map 7. Everybody loves a map 7. But
Everybody does, yeah.
I think as long as we get a good series, people will be happy. Boys, any final thoughts before we take a quick break and send it to our casters?
I think that it's notorious for people to get a little tilted and think a game's lost in Emerald, which is why I put my prediction so lopsided. But I think if both teams just lock in their mental, you lose a map, go next. It could be anyone's game. So everyone lock in. You got this.
Stan, any final words of encouragement or dismay to any of the players?
I'm gonna say good luck to everybody. You earned it. You made it this far. Have a strong finish. Go pit and stand number 1.
Crazy. All right, well then that is going to do it for us right now. We're going to take a quick break and then send it over to our casters so we can see New York Insomnia going against the Vancouver Wild for your United Rogues Season 7 Emerald Championship. We will be right back.